Hi, everybody. Welcome to our channel, our Scientology stories, Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and I'm here with my co-host,
Janis Gillham Grady. G'day, everybody. Aloha, Mark. How are you?
Aloha. Aloha. I'm good. It's a nice Sunday afternoon, and we've got a continuing, another video in our continuing series about the Freewinds, right, Janis?
Yes, the Freewinds. And this time we're actually talking about the Maiden Voyage.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is when I appear on the scene. And with us as our guests that we're going to chat with is Scott and Karry Campbell. They're back with us to continue. And this time we'll be talking about the Maiden Voyage time period, the original Maiden Voyage, not all these other Maiden Voyages they do just to make money. But this was in June 1988. And so let's bring on Karry and Scott.
Okay. And hold on, let me put it this way here like that.
There you
Hi,
go.
Scott and Karry. How you doing?
Aloha, Mark.
Very good. How are you?
Aloha. Hi, Karry. Good to see you both.
Janice.
You guys make me feel out. I'm not wearing anything Hawaiian, but I have the Freewind shirt.
You're representing.
You're the rep.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, anyway, so yeah, we're going to talk about the Maiden Voyage. And did you say, Janis, when it was exactly? When it was like, was it in June each year, or when was it?
June.
June each year. Yeah.
And this is after how many years getting ready? Scott, how long was it?
From September 86 till June 88 was the period of the initial renovations to get ready for the Maiden Voyage.
Almost 2 years then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, during that time period, Biddy Miscavige, she was working on all the fine details and the planning with Paul and sending out the missions and so forth, which included Biddy herself going to the different ports to do some PR area control and find out why the Apollo had problems public relations wise in the different islands in the Caribbean. She also worked on making sure someone was buying the sheets for every bid, and that there were amenities such as shampoo and lotion and soap, and all with the new logo that she had to get worked out. The Majestic Cruise Lines, if I remember correctly, that was the name of the cruise line that the Freewinds was sailing under.
Right, Majestic Cruise Lines.
Yeah.
Actually,
Paul was Paul Grady. That's Janis's husband. He was the mission operator who was running the whole thing, the action chief. He was that's who she's talking about when she said Paul.
Yeah, he ran all the missions to fill in all the little details and make everything come together. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So I know I must have been fired to the ship in March of 1988, because it was like there was only a couple of months left in order to pull everything off in time, and there was concern it wouldn't happen. So I went out as the mission in charge with Jenny Linson was my mission second. And I know there's a lot of people out there that didn't like Jenny. And I haven't dealt with Jenny in years, and I hear the horror stories of what she's been involved in. But when she was on as mission second for me, she was pretty new in the Sea Org. It was her first mission, and she was very good. I'd have her go do things, and neither of us had to raise our voice at anybody or say, "Hey, what's the non-compliance about?" Because anytime we asked for something to get done, it got done. I mean, the crew were just incredible. The best crew I'd ever worked with.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Now,
mean,
where
they really were.
Now, where was this at? I'm going to show a picture, but you'd say where it was at.
This was in Curacao, in the Netherlands Antilles, just north of Venezuela.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a bridge like that?
In the back of the harbor.
Yeah, there is a bridge. This is a postcard.
Yeah.
So it's not like that. It's kind of put together. But, the last time I'd been in Curacao was in 1975. when Hubbard was in the hospital. And
Oh,
so I'd been in Curacao then, and then I went off. He got out of hospital, went back to the ship. I went on mission to Los Angeles to the Advanced Organization in LA. And when I was ready to come back, everybody had already moved from the ship, so I never got to go back to Curacao until 1988.
Now, Janis, your microphone is breaking up a little bit when you move. I don't know if it's because you're moving or what, but like it cuts in and out a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll
See,
try
now it
not to
sounds
move,
fine.
but
Now it sounds
I'll try
fine.
not to move.
Okay, so Curacao, right? And of course, then this is the ship here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and this Ted Horner was the photographer of that. They hired a helicopter, and we went out on sea trials, and Ted was up in the chopper taking photographs with all the crew lined up there.
Do you remember that, Scott and Karry? Were you guys two of the people standing there?
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
That had a helicopter. Is that when they used the helicopter?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ted Horner was up there.
He was flying sideways to the ship, down close to the water, and it was amazing for us to watch. And we had to stand there perfectly still for the shot, and it took a while. They took quite a number of shots,
Oh yeah,
Did they just tell you to stand at attention there for like a while?
It was kind of wasn't really at attention, but it was just not moving,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the chopper was just going all over the place and just taking as many different photos and angles as possible.
Yeah.
It also looks like the ship is going at a pretty good clip if it's breaking water like that, right?
Yeah. The ship was actually capable of traveling at 22 knots. Our cruising speed was 18 knots, was considered pretty fast for a cruise ship.
Mm-hmm.
So we were underway, and Gold actually did photo shoots like that numerous times for different, promo pieces and events, event promo and stuff like that,
Right. And there's the missionaire, the chief missionaire.
So
the mission in charge.
How old were you there?
Let me think.
1988.
32. I just turned 32. Yeah. And did you want to say something?
Yeah. It looks like some of the Gold people are behind you.
I think so. This is a photo in my collection. I had a better photo than this, but I had an extra photo, and so I sent it to my dad. And because my whole photo album on the Freewinds was taken, I was able to recover this one from my dad's photo album. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good photo, though, of you, Janis.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yes, thank you. Look how skinny I was, and I actually thought I was fat.
I know we were all skinnier back then.
Absolutely.
Much skinnier.
Well, I remember getting one of those dress uniforms with the long dress for events and stuff like that. And I remember going, oh, my belly's sticking out. No.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is Jenny Linson, who Jenny DeVocht, right? This is who you were talking about.
Yes. Jenny was my mission second. And what people probably don't know about Jenny is her father is Art Linson and her brother John Linson, and they are the producers of Yellowstone. And Art's actually been a producer for a lot of
famous
movies. Movies, yeah. And he's worked with Kevin Costner before, way back when Kevin wasn't even a known. But,
he did a lot of
that's
movies
her dad.
with Robert De Niro too, and her brother John is, like you said, he's one of the producers of the Yellowstone series. But Jenny, like you said, I only knew her briefly, because like you said, this is '88. We left in '90, and her and Tom seem like very very sweet people.
When Jenny got married to Tom, I actually went to the wedding, and it was at Art Vinson's house. And I remember I had a 64 Mustang, and I drive up in the Mustang, and there's a sign outside valet parking for the wedding. So I pull up. They refused to valet my car because all the cars were like BMWs,
Rolls Royces,
Rolls Royce, and I show up in this old Mustang. So I had to park way down the block and walk to the house.
You probably
meanwhile, that Mustang was the coolest car.
totally.
I know, but
Probably
That's
too.
that is the first year of Mustang too, of 64 and a half.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was.
It's a special car.
In that car, I'd had people follow me to ask if I would sell or leave a note on it. I mean, it was definitely an in-demand car, and these valet parkers didn't see that. It was probably more valuable than all the other cars.
That's right.
Janis, why don't you let people know what you had to actually do as the mission? Like you said, you got other missionaries and other people brought there. Just give an overview of all the different, major things that had to be done for the Maiden Voyage to be pulled off. Give our viewers a little bit of an idea what we're talking about here.
Well, we had to make sure that the crew were trained on the bridge. Drills were done. That's why I had James Byrne as the missionary underneath me to do all the ship drills and make sure the crew were trained. There's James there talking to L. Ron Hubbard, and behind Hubbard is behind Hubbard is Clarice Barnett, Shelley Miscavige's older sister. But James was at St. Hill in 1966. When I showed up, he did my grades auditing. So I've known him since I was 10 years old. And then during the liability cruise in 1968, he was, there doing a lot of the drilling of everybody. And he was even stuck ashore with us with no passports when we illegally entered Spain. So I have a long history with James. I know a lot of people don't like him these days from what I've been hearing. And but I never had issues with him. But anyway, he ran all the ship's drills for me and ran the musters in the morning for the crew. I then had another missionary, Mickey Lipton. Mickey was over human resource type functions. Here's a picture of my sister on the left, Mickey in the middle, and Irene Howie Dunleavy on the right. Anyway, so Mickey was in charge of all the human resources. And if we needed people for certain jobs, she was the missionary that had to arrange to get those jobs filled and people brought into the ship. And I would just telex, Paul is my husband. I telexed him as my mission up saying, I need someone for such and such a job. And he would arrange to get that. And they'd come through Mickey's lines and Mickey would get them put on post and get people through hatting.
How did they actually get the personnel? Did they just take them from other organizations, or how was that done? Because as well as I do, this came up a lot with, we've got to man up Cine, we've got to man up this, and we would just sort of, tell people how that was done, because
this was basically
the highest priority was getting the ship ready. So what,
Yes. So if there were jobs missing, I would just say, okay, I need someone for this. And they would look at the Flag Land Base or in Los Angeles, anywhere, and say, hey, can we take that person? Well, they didn't say, can we? They just took that person. And the next thing you know, they're arriving on the ship.
Right. Yeah. And I got sent on a number of we called them extraction missions, right?
Yeah.
For example, it's like, hey, we need a machinist, right? Okay, call all the oars and find out if there's a machinist, right? Oh, there's a machinist at Miami Org. Okay, Scott, go get that guy and send him, So we'd send him to Flag. They'd do the EPF there and then get through the quals, sec checks and everything, security checks, and then it'd get sent to the ship,
Yeah, so it was like There was no stopping it. So in other words, like, just so people know, our viewers know, normally in Scientology, when you're in the Sea organization, if you want somebody for a position in your area, they have to be replaced.
Sure.
Okay. You don't just take them from there, and then that the job that they were doing before is empty. But obviously this was a high priority. So replacements wasn't an issue. Am I right, Janis?
Not an issue at all.
We would make the organization take responsibility for replacing the person, and then we would leave without following up on that part of it.
Right. And then, of course, those people were very upset that you took the person. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
You know,
but it was not, yeah.
I do want to say this, though. It was about 50-50 from raw recruits from the public and then, you know, experienced staff members. So we did get a lot of actual public, you know, to join the Sea Org and make that commitment, you know, and they were just as good as anybody, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. But other things was like I worked closely with Captain Napier to make sure he fully understood what his job was and he was responsible for. And with Milt Wolf and what was her name? Julia.
There, that's right. That is her name.
Julia Breuer?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. She was married to Henry, the German.
Yeah. And
she was Spanish.
Yeah. That's
Captain Napier there, right? The tallest gentleman there.
Yeah. The tall one in the back. Yes.
Yeah. She and what wound up happening was she became the COFSSO for a while, the commanding officer of the flagship service organization. And her and Sharon, now Weber,
yes,
back and forth between the HCO area secretary and COFSSO. They would switch positions and took turns running the organization as opposed to running the personnel division of the organization.
Not my dog.
Not my dogs.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Mine are fast asleep on the couch.
Okay, so Janis, so
and then
other things you have?
Yeah. Other things is making sure like the service lines were working, the regs, and that the course room was set up, the OT8 course room was set up, the tapes, the little mini courses, listening to tapes to make sure that was set up, that that there was enough food on board, the menus had been fully worked out, all the aluminum that was on the ship in the galley, get that out of there, because aluminium, whatever you want to say, was considered to release poisons. So we had to get all that replaced. So it's just different things like that, just to pull off every little thing, and amenities in every single cabin, every single bed made, and each cabin ready for the public to come aboard. So there was a lot of fine little details checking in and out.
Right.
And then who was this, Janis? Who was this, Janis? This is one of your missionaries?
Yes, this is Tom Martiniano. He was actually Paul's go-to man for when he needed a tech missionaire. He loved sending Tom on missions because Tom just was straight to it. He just got it done. And he did a lot of sec checks of people and cleanups of people, and he actually still does it today from what I hear. Anyway, so Tom was the missionaire underneath me in charge of making sure the whole OT8 was properly set up for delivery, and the supervisors were trained, and that the review auditors knew what they were doing and that type of thing.
Where was the OT8 course room? What part of the ship was that at?
It was on,
forward.
Yeah, it's B deck forward, wasn't it? Or what was it? No, main deck. Which?
Main deck.
Main deck forward.
Yeah.
That's right.
What did they convert a showroom or something and make it into the course room, or what did they do? Take some cabins or?
Yeah, they tore out a bunch of cabins and made a big course room, and then a bank of auditing rooms, for review, auditing, stuff like that. And they put in a whole security system too. It was custom made, totally custom made. Like,
Yeah.
We made our own circuit boards. They had crew members from the ship soldering together the circuit boards for the access security, to have the course packs, to open the course packs, to access the space itself, to go in and out of the doors leading to that space. Yeah. That was a big deal. We provided, the engine room provided most of the people that did the technical electronics work, you know.
Right. Because weren't all the course packs for OT8, they were all plugged into a security system?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then who's this?
Oh,
Ian Karry.
I have a Walkman. You see that? It's
Yeah.
Oh,
She had a Walkman so that she could ignore anyone who tried to bother her.
That's cool.
as in, she's got it on with you next to her. That's not a good sign, Scott.
She still does that to this day.
Yeah. Anyway, and so you all were involved with getting the ship set up as well, obviously, because as we talked about on the earlier videos, and we're getting ready for the Maiden Voyage.
Yeah. And then, then when Maiden Voyage happened, it was like just making sure every person that was coming aboard, their cabins had been assigned and they knew where to go. And, and it was really smooth.
I want to say something too, is like the logistics lines at every port had to be set up, because, when the ship is there, you're taking on supplies, and so the ship, as Janis knows, had 2 5-star restaurants on it, and they were legitimate 5-star restaurants. They were certified under an international gastronomic society called the Chaîne de Rôtisseurs, which was founded in the year 1245, right?
Wow.
And it was actually, if you became an executive chef in that order, it was a royal order. You actually got knighted by Queen Beatrix of Holland, and we had 2 of those chefs, one for each public dining room.
And one of them was for the crew, right?
Well, the crew actually wound up getting to eat a lot of the main menu items from the public fare. We just didn't get the extravagant, buffet and the dessert bar and all of that stuff, But we did.
Listen, we've got another guest here.
Oh.
Here he is, Tom Martiniano.
I made it. I went through the wall of passwords and all that stuff, but I made it.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hi, Scotty.
Hey, Tom. What's going on, buddy?
Good.
Yeah, Tom,
we already showed. This is Tom Martiniano. We were just talking about.
Oh boy, those were the good old days when I was about 100 pounds lighter.
Yeah. Sorry.
All of us.
I told them about you earlier because we showed another picture of you, and how you were Paul's go-to for a sec checker or tech person to go out on mission and do cleanups and that type of thing for him.
Look how tired I was. Had bags under my eyes, they're all red. I think I was a COITO then.
At the International Training Board. Yeah. Hey, Tom, since you're new on the video here, why don't you give people a brief rundown of who you were in Scientology and the Sea organization, that type of thing, and like Janis mentioned, you were on the Freewinds mission. Yeah.
All right, so I was on staff in Detroit from 1971 till 1976, 5-year contract there, and then I went out and did my OT sections at AOLA. I got up to OT3, and then my wife, Carol, went out there and did her OT sections, and then she joined the USGO, and without asking me about it or anything like that. So now we were stuck out in LA, right? And so then I was souping the OT sections at AOLA as a non-Sea Org for a while, and then I joined the Sea Org. Yeah, Janis?
Tom, be careful on abbreviations, because we've got people who won't understand all of our lingo. We understand it, but there's people watching that won't.
All right, so AOLA is the Advanced Org in Los Angeles, where they make OTs, and
right.
So
Operating Thetans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I worked there, and then I got sent on those counter espionage missions, commonly known as the rollback missions. I went into the USG.
Oh yeah.
And holy crap, man, that was pretty wild. And then I got sent out to USGO to finish the job out there in the Guardian's office, and that was like, are you kidding me? I had everybody on me. I had Interpol, I had MI5, and it was just crazy. Anyhow.
Janis, that reminds me, Tom. But Janis, we need to do a separate video on rollback. I had forgotten completely about that.
Exactly.
We'll have to do that with
that
us.
Was just chock full of I could write a whole book on that actually, but I'm not going to. But so I finished that.
Got a visitor, Tom. You got a visitor behind you. Who's that?
Does Linda know that she's back
Linda.
there?
No.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Linda, she's okay. She's secure.
I'm an audience.
She passed her security checks.
So anyhow, then I got transferred to upper middle management after. Then I went to Australia. I forgot about that, and I became. First I got sent to Clearwater, and I was in upper middle management there, and I became CS5 for a little bit. Commodore Staff 5, so I was in charge of the qualifications divisions on the planet, and then I started getting loaded up with Australia to manage and Africa to manage, and as a management chief, and then I got sent on the rollback missions. That was like exciting, and then I'm out of sequence there. Then I went to New York, and I did a mission there for 9 months or so. It was one of those long-term handling missions, and then I went to Australia and spent almost a year there, and then to Copenhagen to the Advanced Org St. Hill there, and I was a CO commanding officer there for 9 months or so, and then I landed back in upper middle management, and then I got sent up to the international headquarters, where I did an apprenticeship for a year up there. And so that one pretty good, actually. That was fun, and people are trying to make me into the watchdog committee, but my qualifications for that were not good. So anyhow, somewhere in the middle there, I got sent on the ship mission, and I got sent out to Flag Service Org to get the GI over $2 million and figure out why they couldn't do that. And so I got that done. And then from there, I got sent to the ship. And then I came back from there. It was a successful mission. It was really good. And I became the construction management ops operator. So I was in charge of all construction in the church. And
they took you off of tech lines?
Huh?
They took you off of the tech lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I finally made it back onto the tech lines. And I stayed in PAC. I was a cramming officer there. I corrected people. And that was pretty much where I exited.
When we talk about the tech lines, we're talking about the technical delivery of Hubbard's processes and auditing and counseling, and Tom was an expert in that, and even to this day, he's been an expert for many years in regards to that.
Yeah, all in all, I've audited about I'd say 30,000 hours. I'll take from 1971 till the present, and I'm still auditing it.
Yeah, so you are still a Scientologist auditing people in the independent field, not part of the official Church of Scientology. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay.
We even
So
set up
back-
a corporation for that. So there's a corporation for that now. It's called the International Reformed Church of Scientology.
Oh, okay.
So Tom, just so you know, we're talking about preparing for the Maiden Voyage, and we're showing photographs from that. And Janis was talking about the different missions that the different things that she was responsible for overseeing and who helped her and all that stuff. So just so you're up to date as to where we're at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I pretty much covered a lot of it, except for now Tom can cover what he did on getting OT8 being delivered.
Yeah, that's a good point. Go ahead, Tom.
All right. So after I finished the mission into FSO to get it over $2 million, then I got pulled in and was told I was going on a mission to the ship. And there was Norman Starkey was, I think he was in charge of kind of like getting the ship set up. I don't know what he was doing, but anyhow, he was down there, and he from what I understand, this is in the knowledge report that he wrote, a 40-page knowledge report
that Norman wrote.
Yes.
Well, Norman actually, while I was there on mission, Norman was sent out to do an inspection and just make sure that everything was in place.
Oh, okay.
And he had no real authority over anything except for that he was a right arm captain from the Apollo.
Right.
And so and Miss Scavage and everyone else didn't know anything about ships. So Norman was sent out just to do a final inspection.
Right. So from what I understand, he was at the on the con on the ship. In other words, he was on the bridge, and he was in charge of the ship. And then there was another ship, I think it was a tanker that was coming into port. And so he asked radar. They had brand new radar on the ship. I mean, really, really sexy radar that they had. And so he asked the radar operator, "What's the distance to that ship?" And he said, 2 miles. And he goes, "There's no way it's 2 miles." He said, "Is there something wrong with the machine?" He goes, "No, I didn't use the machine. I can tell you it's 2 miles." And so anyhow, he refused to use the radar. So Norman went over there and pushed him aside and hit the radar, and they were a quarter mile from that ship, which is a near miss in ship speak, right? So then he went to bed that night and he couldn't sleep. And so he got up in the middle of the night and went down to the bridge, and he was looking around. He was looking at the people, and there's that big red button there that you mash, and it's abandoned ship. It's the number one drill on any ship, right? You have that drill out and you enter any port, they can take your ship away from you, you know. So he mashed that ship, and everybody's drilled on, you got to get your life preserver, you got to know where your lifeboat is, and are supposedly drilled. And if you don't have that drilled down, yeah, there you go. So half the people showed up on the ship to get to their lifeboats, and even then, half of them had it wrong. So hence the KR. You know, he started going around doing more inspections, and so I had to go handle all that stuff. And so maybe 3 or 4 days later, I arrived on the ship, and it was in pretty bad shape personnel-wise. You know, so we had to go around and get discipline in as the first thing on the ship, because if you don't have discipline on a ship, things can go very badly, right? As LRH has pointed out in a lot of flag orders that he wrote. And so I had, I think, 4 or 5 missions underneath me. There was a Qual mission, there was a Hubbard Communications Office mission, there was a security mission, there was a finance mission, and those were all underneath me, and I had to run those. And so it was kind of exciting. I'd never been on a ship in my life, you know. So that first time we went out at night, God, that was the most beautiful thing I ever seen. We were going past Willamette there, off of Curacao, you know, going out the slip there, and it was all lit up like Disneyland. Those buildings there, God, that was beautiful. And the ship was just gliding, you know, out to sea. And yeah, that was the most exciting thing that ever happened to me, you know.
Wow. Yeah, she was a good ship, very nice ship.
Oh, it was great. It was. It wasn't large like a Carnival ship or anything like that. It was just the right size. I think it held 750 personnel or 1,000 or something like that, you know. People.
I think 750, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be, but with passengers and crew, I think it could hold 750.
Yeah, there she is in all of its beauty. I like that ship. It was really a cool ship. And so I learned of all the renovations. So one of the things I had to do was wrap up the renovations there, because the guys that were doing the renovations, they were just regular people. They weren't in the Sea Org or anything. And Joe Crass was in charge. He was a general contractor there. And then I found out that they were doing parties every weekend and having drunken bashes and stuff, and I was going, oh Lord.
So were we.
Yeah.
So with the crew.
Yeah.
But that was Cipro, right?
We were doing that as long as we could get away with it. We were doing it.
So anyhow, I had to amp up and being a little bit rough with the people, and I told Joe Crass, I said, you're finishing this mission. I don't know if you remember that gal that was with me. She was in a former magazine spread, if you understand what I mean. She came from...
I understand.
Yeah, anyhow, she was good to have, because she was kind of, she didn't know anything. And, but it gave me a lot of ethics presence having her hanging on my arm, So, yeah, you get the idea. And so anyhow, I told Joe, the general contractor, I said, you got 5 days to wrap this thing up and get out of here. And I had to run around and find people. They had ladders up on the walls. I go, what are you doing? So, well, there's a rip in the fabric up here on the wall. Get down, get out of here. You're done. And someone tried to remove the safe from somebody's office, because the person that had that office thought it was the wrong color. And you could hear me screaming all the way through the ship about that one. I'm going, they were taking the door jambs off so they could get the safe out. It was crazy. So there's a lot of that. And then I found out that the staff for the FSSO, which is a flagship
service
org,
as opposed to the flagship
Freewinds Ship Org was the other one. FWSO.
Yeah, FWSO. That's right.
Yeah.
And so I found out that none of those people that were going to be on staff there in the FSSO had ever been on staff before. And I went, well, this is just exciting, So I was starting to freak out. And Mark Yeager, who was the Inspector General Admin at the time, says, you look worried. And I go, I am. And he goes, what about? And I said, well, I drill the lines, but when I get done with the lines, they disappear. And he goes, what do you mean they disappear? And I go, there's no tension on them from public or people on those lines. So if there's nothing on the lines, then the lines disappear. And he goes, so what's causing that? I said, none of the staff are have ever been on staff before. And I said, they're nice people and they're either at OT7 or OT8, but So he said,
real briefly, explain what lines are, because our viewers won't understand what that is.
All right. So when you route somebody from one place to another, let's say he's got to go to the course room and start training in the course room. So you send him to the ethics officer to make sure that they're ethical, and then you send them to somewhere else to make sure they have a place to stay, and you show them where to go to eat and stuff like that, and then you finally get them to the course room, and then there they are. But they have a routing form that takes them to these places, right? So you have to drill those out so that you run these lines efficiently, because they stop at terminals along the way. People, they do their jobs. And if you drill those lines in a regular org where org is functioning, they have a tendency to stay there drilled. But if you don't have any public there, then there's no point in doing it, So my idea was to use my missions for when the public came, and run the org for a week with my staff that were on missions, just put their missions on hold for, while we went ahead with the Maiden Voyage. And it worked like a dream. It went great. And so then we sent those existing staff, while we were running the FSSO, we sent them over to the, make beds and cook and, work in the galley and stuff, And then I pulled them back one by one and had the guy that was running their poster, and I had it like I was being the DOP, the director of processing. And so I had to turn that job over to whoever was designated for it. So that went really good, and the place took off like a rocket. It was really good. And So then we were all sailing along. Everything was just Jim Dandy. And then I was up on the flying bridge one night. We were sailing from, I think, to Aruba. And I was looking up at the sky. And then Guillaume, he was the executive director internationally. He come up and was hanging with me up there. And he goes, so what do you think? And I go, we're in trouble. He goes, why is that? And I go, well, we pulled this off, but what are you guys doing next week? And he goes, what do you mean next week? And I go, what are you doing next week? I haven't seen anything for how you're going to continue this going. And he goes, oh my God. He says, all right, get everybody. We're going to have a meeting. So we
hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'm not sure I understand that. So you had Janis, you guys had to inspect, like, did Mark Yeager and Guillaume Boissard, did David Miscavige, did they come and inspect the ship before the maiden voyage?
They came just a few days beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because we did the whole naming ceremony, and we christened the ship, and they were all there for that.
Yeah.
So they didn't come earlier than that. They came like just before the
Mark
public
Yeager did.
arrived.
He was the first one in.
Okay.
So he was
No,
there.
but but that was after we had everything done and ready to go, that they started coming in just before all the public started arriving.
Yeah.
So really, Norman Starkey was the only one who really came to inspect beforehand, I take it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Norman,
Okay.
yes.
Sorry, carry on, Tom.
So the problem is that everybody was focused on the maiden voyage, but they never made any plans for what happens when all those 159 public that came for the maiden voyage to do OTA left. And so they had no public after that, you see. And so I was the only one to spot it on the entire thing, you know. So I said, we need to get some tours out right now and missions to get public driven down on the ship.
Yeah.
So and then I left. So it all came out well. It was.
Well, let me ask you a question, Tom. You know, obviously, you know, the ship was set up and they were going to deliver OT8 there, right? And then I remember they set up a bunch of tape courses, lecture courses, right? Didn't they?
Yeah.
To keep the public busy, because OT8 didn't take very long to do, did it?
A couple of weeks. No, a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, not very long. So like it was like kind of like you said, you know, you get through the first few people through that, and then how are you going to get more people there, right?
Yeah.
And then
It was to get more public.
Yeah.
What, Scott?
The OT hatting courses, they were called OT hatting courses, and they were ostensibly to train the, you know, OT, it was promoted as the first actual OT level, you know, or everything leading up to that were pre-OT levels. And then these courses were ostensibly to train the OTs how to use their newly developed abilities, you know, and they were based on L. Ron Hubbard lectures, but they had, you know, they had course packs and everything, and you know, illustrations and drills, everything that a normal Scientology course would have.
But who manned up the technical? Like, you had to have a technical division, right, Tom? You had to have like a senior CS and all that. How did all those personnel? Was that part of the manning up, Janis, that was done?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I was actually, because I was the commanding officer of the International Training Yard, and after a while, I was putting my own staff on post there, which was kind of weird because they were arriving. I go, "What are you doing here?" And, well, I got sent here to be on staff, and I go, "What?" You know. But so yeah, we just when they were arriving, there were still recruit missions out there getting these people arrived, and so then we had to get them hatted really fast, you know, what to do on their post. And
I believe, wasn't Laura Wolf the CS for OT8?
Yes.
And Margaret Chalmers was there as the review auditor for OT8.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Alice Weber was the OT8 course supervisor.
Right. Yeah.
In the beginning, Ray Midoff and
with Alice Hablitzel at the time. Then later she married Gary Weber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Scott, and you were in the engine room, and then Karry, what were you prior to the maiden voyage? Were you still a chief steward for the crew, or what were you doing, Karry?
Everything.
Everything.
I had been there probably the longest because I got there when there was only 12 people on board.
Uh-huh.
So, there was a position that was, somebody needed to figure out how to do a position. So I figured it out and got the appropriate materials so that people can be trained on that post, and then turned it over to the new staff member that was coming on board. So that's kind of what I was doing for the majority of the first almost year that I was there. Before that, I was on the OTA Man-Up mission with Nan Starkey in Clearwater. But then as soon as the ship was purchased and they needed somebody there, I went. So, but I was doing crew chief steward right off the bat because the person that was on that position was not qualified to be there, Steve Manter. And so he went back to PAC, and then I had that position until somebody that was more qualified exec-wise could take over the position. And then I just did what was needed. And I was also in HCO. I was also in cabin stewards. I mean, it was...
She was in treasury for a while.
It was a free-for-all.
I understand. That's cool. Janis, let me ask you a question, okay? But go ahead, Scott.
Essentially, what it was they would Karry was a trained COPE officer from the Los Angeles organization, and so they would get her to do the hat, to do the post, and then she would, like she said, gather the materials. She would put together a hat pack, a check sheet, so the person could study the materials and train on how to do the job in the crew course room, and then pass an exam, to show that they understood that. And then when she was finished doing that, then they would have her give that job to someone else and then go on to the next thing they needed. And then eventually, I think Janis would tell a story about this. They eventually had to make Karry the actual posted COPE officer on the ship. And the COPE officer is somebody who copes with everything that needs to be done that other people are not doing, and they organize. So that comes to the point where they make the training materials and make a post occupiable.
Right.
Yeah. So let me talk about that. When Karry was made the COPE officer, the passengers, we'd done the maiden voyage. It was successful. The passengers that just came for the maiden voyage were going home. And when I'd first arrived on the ship, there was one of the messengers on the ship. She was from New Zealand. I don't remember her name, but she was in the middle of being shipped to Israel. She was married to an Israeli, and she was pregnant. She was like 7 months pregnant. So she had to be flown out before she couldn't fly anymore. And if they kept her during maiden voyage, it was too late to send her anywhere. So anyway, so she flew to Israel and was staying with her husband's family. She didn't speak Hebrew. She only spoke English. Anyway, so we do the maiden voyage, and things are going great. And then the Mimeo officer comes up to me with the petition. He was the husband and the father of the child that was due. And he'd been promised that as soon as maiden voyage was over, he could leave the ship and go and join his wife and be there for the delivery of his child at his parents' house. So he had petitioned, and it was turned down because there was no one to replace him. There was other priorities. So he came to me with a new petition as the mission in charge, because I was senior to the captain.
Yes.
And the commanding officer of the ship, Milt Wolf. So the Mimeo officer came to me with this petition and was telling me how his wife is in Israel. She's about to have the baby anytime, and he keeps being promised he'll be replaced, and no one's replaced him, but he needs to leave. So I approved his petition to leave. And off he goes. He took that next flight out. There was he just burnt rubber to get off there as fast as he could so that no one could stop him. Well, then the Captain Napier wakes up, gets up, goes to look for his orders of the day, which is the first thing the Mimeo is supposed to put out. There's no orders of the day. So the captain starts his own.
What are the orders of the day?
That's the daily newspaper type of thing, and it gives you what orders and what watch is responsible for what part of the day.
What uniform you wear?
What uniform to wear, what's for dinner, what's for breakfast, that's all in the orders of the day. And that hadn't come out. So the captain is like now doing this big investigation as to why hasn't Mimeo put out the orders of the day. Well, he finds out that I approved that this guy leave the ship with no replacement. Oh, he was upset, but he couldn't. You could see him when he was talking to me. He was withholding his upset. But he couldn't get mad. He couldn't get mad at me because it was what I approved was totally on policy, and it would have created a situation of the guy blowing. So I saved the guy blowing and getting declared and everything else by allowing him to leave. But Paul Karry is the COPE officer, and now she has to step up and type up the orders of the day and get the Mimeo out as fast as possible for the captain.
Go ahead, Karry.
Thing is, I definitely learned how to type fast during that time. I was like, before then I had high school typing for half the 3 months. So yeah, I was just like, okay. And then I did the LRH biography project, which was input, but that was a lot tougher because, you had to have a format. It was just not inputting data. It was like you had, all the different information, and it always changed, the people that were on watch and who was in charge. And you had to do a whole bunch of research too each time. So it was a definitely learning experience. And then the Mimeo machine, it's one of those crank things.
Yeah.
Right? And then you had to put a stencil. And if you didn't have the stencil to do the printing, and how to order the stencil. And I mean, it was, so within a week, it was ironed out again, but it was just like.
You made it go right.
She made it go right, and it was no longer my problem.
Okay, great. Now let me ask this question, Janis. Okay, you're getting ready for the Maiden Voyage.
Yeah.
You know David Miscavige. Miscavige. You've dealt with him, right? And when he comes, he expects everything to be perfect. Were you guys nervous at all because he hadn't been there? That everything was in order, or you know what I mean? Were you prepared for that?
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't nervous around Dave. At those times, I could talk to him. We were friends, and when we were pulling out a dock to go off on sail the Maiden Voyage, he's looking down and he was like, oh my God, we're so close to the dock. And, because the captain was pulling it out a certain way. I'm like, don't worry. This captain can parallel park this ship. He came away impressed then, I take it. Oh, yeah. But he was nervous himself as to, was he going to bang the captain going to bang the ship against the dock or what, because the angle the captain was pulling out at. But I was just, no, Dave, it's okay. Just don't worry about it.
Well, I'm actually really more asking about, I mean, that's great. I'm the course rooms, the renovations, how he is. He goes through and he goes, I don't like that. I like this. I don't like that. I don't like that. Was he like that? Or was it just sort of like he just was happy with everything? Good.
Yeah, he didn't change things.
That's great.
And at the
he was there for like 2 days or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe
well, he was there longer because he was there for the whole sailing of
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was there the whole time, but he wasn't, I've seen him in that frantic thing, but he wasn't like that. He just let us do our thing, and we just would tell him what was happening, and he was cool. And then after the Maiden Voyage, he and Ray Midoff and Mark Yeager and a bunch of the execs were all going to go out and have a dinner and celebrate. And Dave was like, "Come on, Janis." I'm like, "No, it's okay." He says, "No, come and eat with us. Come and celebrate. You've done a great mission." I was like, "Nope, I'm on mission. I'm not going anywhere." Because he had nailed me before when I went roller skating with his brother while on mission. Yeah. So I was like, I'm not doing that again, no matter how much he tells me.
Okay, let me show you this pictures. Okay, so this is the christening, right?
Yep.
Yeah, this was the christening. Voyage. Yes, and there's Norman Starkey in the middle there on the podium. Mm-hmm. And then to the right, Bob DeSimone, Captain Napier, and Roanne Horwich, L. Ron Hubbard's granddaughter.
That's not David Miscavige back there standing next to Mike Napier?
No, that's Roanne.
No, not Roanne. I meant the guy to the right. That's Bob DeSimone. It looks like, I thought it was David Miscavige.
No, not Miscavige there. It's bling.
It's David Miscavige standing next to Captain Napier.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Janis, that's DM.
I've got.
He's incredibly short.
Yeah. I was just going to point that out.
Okay, I've got to pull out the originals on this and look.
Okay. But anyway,
I always thought it was Bob DeSimone.
No. So
maybe
anyway,
it is, because over there is Ray Midoff and Mark Yeager.
Yeah. So what did you what was the ceremony? Were there public here at this point, or what was the deal?
No.
I don't remember the public being there. It was all the crew and the int-execs, and it was for the christening of the ship, and that's where Roanne cut the string and the bottle of champagne. Yeah, here. There's the champagne bottle. Roanne cutting that.
Right.
I got a funny story about that, because we were drilling it the day before. We had, I think, 7 Magnum bottles of champagne, right?
Get to test
we
it?
tried it and we let it go. The first one, we let it go and it bounced off the ship. And I'm going, oh, this is not good, right? So then we tried it again. Then we threw it up against the ship and it finally broke. So then we tried it again. So we ended up for the final, we had 1 bottle left, and you can see it swinging right there. We etched the bottle, okay? And
poured it with a glass cutter, right?
Yeah, with a glass cutter, and to make sure that it broke when it hit the ship, because it was going to be the biggest flap you ever seen if it didn't break, right? So as she cut it, Roanne cut it, and that bottle was swinging, you could hear a mouse peeing on cotton. I'm telling you, that bottle swung ever so slowly, and it hit the ship and it exploded, and everybody went,
oh, thank God.
That was hilarious. These little things.
Well, when we did the Apollo christening back in Corfu in '69, same thing happened. The bottles being practiced with weren't hitting. So there was a big concern of when Hubbard was going to get up there, but it pulled off okay. It broke. It seems to break at the right time.
Yeah.
Now on the Maiden Voyage, you had public there. Was it to start delivering OTA, or was it just a cruise? Like they were just going to cruise,
Both.
And what did they have events? I mean, what did they do on the Maiden Voyage?
Me and Ray Midoff got in a big fight about this. He wanted to go sailing when we launch OT8, and I said, by no means are we sailing. And he goes, look at me, who am I? And I go, look at me, who am I? I'm the mission I see here. You're not. And so we actually got in that fight, right? And so I said, I don't want people throwing up, running in and out of the classroom because we're at sea. So we're going to do it at the dock, right? So we started that there at the dock in Curacao. We started OT8. And then another flap occurred where the air conditioning wasn't working in the course room. So we had to fix that. That was crazy. We had a lunch hour to fix that, and we did. And so there was a lot of make it go right on that whole thing, But I remember when Janet, we went out to sea on a what do they call those cruises, shakedown cruise, right?
Yes.
And we got stuck out somewhere in the middle of nowhere with the anchor stuck halfway up, right? We had put the anchor down, and then we got rough
right.
seas. And I don't know why it just happened that we got rough seas. I guess it was Murphy's Law, right? And everybody was puking, right? And and they had the idea to go outside and puke outside over the rail, but you know the Freewinds down there. So Norman's running around screaming, "Go down to your cabins and puke! You're getting puke all over there." And there was puke everywhere on the side of the ship, you know. And then the poor guys in the chain locker down, and we found out that the chain locker was too small for the chain, and I guess they never used it before or something. It's just silly, you know. But
they had all the kids down there, right, locked up. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. And so they're in there with sledgehammers beating on it to get the links into the chain locker.
I'll say something about that.
Yeah.
Bob DeSimone, the deputy captain, actually came down to the engine room and got me, and he said, "Scotty, you got to help us." Brought me up there, and so what I wound up doing was the shank of the anchor. The anchor had turned sideways as it went into the anchor pocket, so it got wedged. The shank got wedged in the tube. And so what I had to do is I wound up getting these 25-ton hydraulic jacks, and they had extension pieces on them, and put it in there. And then we slacked off the anchor chain, and had ropes tied to the handle of the hydraulic rams, and then had a electric hydraulic pump, and ran that. And pushed the anchor enough to where it popped out of the hole, out of the tube, and fell down a little ways. And I had that hat from that point on. They did it several more times, and each time they would come and get me to help them get it out of there. And it would happen because you couldn't see the anchor. And when the ship was going out and they were hauling the anchor up, every once in a while a wave would hit it and turn it as it was getting pulled up into the anchor pocket.
So this, you can see the anchor here on the ship. So I see what you mean, because the ship slopes out, you can't look over and see the anchor coming up.
No, you can't.
And the anchors weigh 7,700 pounds. So that's a pretty big piece of metal.
Yeah.
Well, and there's one on each side.
Yes.
Right.
So
do you have anchors in the back too, or no?
I thought
the back or the front?
No,
this is the front.
No, I know. Did you have anchors in the back as well?
No.
No, the Apollo did. The Apollo had 2 anchors in the front and 1 in the back, but the Freewinds only had the 2 in the front.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that was quite a day. Then later on, after we got that under control, then we had a transformer go in the stairwell. Remember that, Scott?
What was it?
The transformer.
Transformer.
Oh yeah.
The smoke. I mean, when transformers go bad, there's more smoke than you can shake a stick at, and that whole ship filled up with smoke. And
it smelled terrible.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then we had a half-inch water line break up near the galley.
That's right. And the crew member ended up putting his hand, jumping in there, trying to fix it. He was a steward. He was a steward because he then couldn't serve the public coming aboard, and we had to quickly find someone else to cover because his whole hand was all bandaged up.
Wow.
The night before the first passengers arrived, in one of the cabins on the promenade deck, which were the most expensive cabins on the ship, a sewer line broke in the overhead.
Oh no!
Flooded the room with sewage.
Oh no!
Norman Starkey was going insane. But somehow we managed to fix the pipe, clean up everything, replace the carpet, replace everything that had to be removed to replace the carpet. And that was literally the night before the passengers arrived the next morning.
Yeah.
That's right. But Mark, this is what I mean by this crew. They were just so good. Something happened, they would jump on it right away and just get it handled.
They were.
Well, I just remember because I remember being up at INT when Miscavige and everybody came back. They raved about the whole thing, the whole maiden voyage.
Oh, yeah.
They loved the ship. They loved their accommodations. There was nothing like, oh, they've got it all screwed. Nothing like that.
They didn't know half this. They didn't know half the stuff that went on in the back.
Oh no.
No. But what I'm saying is that they were impressed. I'm trying to validate what you're saying.
Yeah.
They were impressed. I
Right.
remember that.
Well, I'll tell you, while on that maiden voyage, they were so busy flirting with the public and hanging out with the public.
It's true.
Remember that, Tom? And that was the first time I was like, wait
Norman.
a minute. The public are being treated better than the crew? And that stuck with me for a long time.
Oh really?
Well,
Those are
for
customers.
2 years, it stuck with me. Yeah, they were our customers, but who were the crew? To me, they were more important.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We got that when you were there.
Okay,
why-
right.
That's why we wanted to, make it so that, what you asked, we gave. Staying
Gotta
up
remember
all
that.
night, whatever,
Well,
Yeah.
Janice, what's this?
Well, this is my last night on the ship. That's me in the blue dress, and I'm holding a plaque that all the crew had signed on the back messages to me and thanking me. And in the white shirt at the very side is Jenny Linson, who is my mission second. And between us in the back, that's Scotty. Scott?
I see that. Yeah. And then who
Yeah.
else is in the picture, Janice?
And then in the picture coming from the left side, the lady in the brown pants, that's Kate Conley, Gary Conley's mom. She had a couple of girls in the cadet org in PAC. And then she was the LRHPR for the maiden voyage. And then Mike Napier, the captain, and then Milt Wolf, who was the commanding officer of the ship.
Right.
And that was there saying goodbye to me after the mission. And we all got an affluence mission, right, Tom?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Look at how big that plaque is. That thing's
Yeah.
That thing's
It's like
like
the
It was
wheel of the
huge.
ship. Looks like the wheel
And
of the
you know-
ship.
I had that in my storage off base because when I came back to the ship in 1990, I came back, so I put everything in storage off base thinking it'll be safe because someone will be in my room, and Paul was on the RPF or something like that. No, Paul was in Clearwater on a mission. And so I put everything in an off base storage, and that was included. And when I came back, and when I blew and came back to recover my stuff, it was gone. They'd gone in there. They'd taken my Freewinds photo album of all my photos from the maiden voyage. They'd taken that plaque signed by all the crew acknowledging it was specifically for me that the crew did that.
Yeah.
That's right.
And all my L. Ron Hubbard birthday cards and Christmas cards, any letters from him, all of it gone.
Oh no.
And this was a private
Yeah.
storage. This was not owned by Scientology, right? This was a public
Right.
place where you actually were paying for the storage, and they let them break in.
Yeah. And
that's
I'll
so
talk
cool.
with Jackson. One of these days I'll do an interview with Jackson because it was Jackson who headed that up
Uh-oh.
when they went and they cut the lock.
He had to.
Oh, just a couple more pictures here. This is Janice and Biddy Miscavige, who was also did the setup for the Freewinds, right, Janice?
Yeah, because after the maiden voyage, I think Tom, were you with us when we went down to Laguna?
No.
We spent a couple of days in Laguna. Then must have been just the missionaries that were from INT. They put on the LRHPRs put on an event for us, and we got to stay at the Laguna Hotel for like 3 days and have fancy restaurants, just as part of the acknowledgement for the great job we did on pulling off the maiden voyage.
That's
No,
right.
all I had to do was get back to work.
That's where
Sorry about that.
So that for appreciation.
that's where I grew
Welcome
up.
back. Good mission. I get to work.
In Vernon Beach, California.
Yeah. Well, at least you got an affluence mission bonus.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, that was. I remember one night I was up there talking with the captain, and he said we were sailing to Bonaire or someplace, and he says, "You want to con the ship?" And I go, "What does that mean?" And so he kind of explained it to me. I go, "Sure, why not?" He goes, "I need to take a nap," and I said, "All right." So he let me con the ship. So how many people can say they conned a ship? You know, I did it for about an hour, and everything was okay except for. We saw something on radar dead ahead, you know, so I went, okay, helm 2 degrees starboard, please, you know, and I just saw that on TV, you know, and so we all went out on the flying bridge, and we were sitting there watching as this thing went by, and I swear to God, it was a baby grand piano floating in the water.
Oh,
Wow.
really?
Yeah.
Well, you never know what you'll find in the waters.
That was weird.
You know, I don't know if this is the same time period, but I remember with the Gold Cine crew were there for the Maiden Voyage. Were they there filming videos and stuff?
Yeah.
Yes.
Didn't they were left behind. Miscavige had them stay behind to do like their able-bodied seaman training or whatever. And when they came back to Gold, they raved about being on the ship. They had to go down in the bilges, Scott, and scrub and clean the bilges as part of it. And they had to hang off of the Dutch, whatever you call it, the flying chair or whatever. And
it's called a bosun's chair.
Bosun's chair. And they loved it. And Miscavige used to send people to do that training at the ship, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
That became the officer training school. Yeah. And eventually every Sea Org organization sent their personnel to go through that. It was essentially the AB check sheet plus a bunch of other drills and training that we put together. I was actually one of the principals of that ran the whole thing. So it was me and the deputy captain and Captain Napier and then of course the course supervisors and stuff, you know. But we ran all of those drills and training and stuff, and people would have an incredible wind. The bosun's chair is a certain knot that you tie, and it makes a chair. So you sit on the bottom loop, and then there's another loop that supports your back, and you lower yourself down, and then you lift yourself back up too. So you go down off of the side. We did it up on the the foredeck over the bow. So you're like 70 feet off the water, right? And then you go all the way down to the water and then bring yourself all the way back up. So there's people that had never done anything like that before. They had incredible winds. They were like crying and hugging us and stuff, you know, having huge wins on doing things like that successfully, you know.
Yeah. Well, that was a thing for me too. When I first arrived at the ship, I've been a landlubber all my life. I think I was on the biggest boat I was ever on was a rowboat, you know, and but all these flag orders started making sense to me all of a sudden, you know, because you're going around and you go, what's that? And they go, well, that's and you go, wow, okay, now I'm starting to get a good reality on all these flag orders and stuff. That was really good. That was good for me.
That's great. Well, we're going to wrap up here, Janis. We're about a little hour and 15 minutes.
Good.
Here. So anyway, we want to thank Tom and we want to thank Scott and Karry again for being on this. We're going to do a 4th show here in a few days, but we want to thank you all for sharing your stories and all that. Okay. And we thank you for that. And meanwhile, I got to do some business here. For the viewers out there, please subscribe to our channel. If you enjoyed this story, we have lots more. You can go to our channel. We have lots of different interviews and stuff. So we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to our channel. Okay. And then also, if you have any questions about what we talked about, just ask in the comments section, and Janis and I check them, and we do answer them all the time. And then finally, if you're interested, you can buy us a coffee. If you want to donate to us, just go down in the description of the video and you can buy us a coffee. It helps support the channel. And then finally, if you are interested in any of our merchandise, okay, we've got Janis's book here is available. You can get it autographed by her. That's all available down below in our merchandise store. And you can just click on the link, and Christmas is almost here, and you can purchase your gifts and purchase Janis's books. And we'd be happy to send those to you. And again, we would appreciate the support. Does anybody have anything
And
else they'd like to say?
I do. Don't
You do? What
forget
is
to
that?
rock slam. Don't forget to rock slam the like button.
That's right. Rock slam that like button. We enjoy that.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything else they want to say before we end the video?
No, it's good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see
You
Yeah,
did,
hold
Tom.
on.
Thanks.
Hold
Karry?
on, Tom. Don't hang up. I'm going to end the video, but we'll talk on the other side. Okay.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Until next time, we want to say thanks for watching, and
Bye.
we'll see
See ya.
you soon.